and she'll be like, shh, I'm watching whatever she's watching, like some cop drama. Like 6, right? And she likes like medical dramas. Oh, so. Wait. 6 straight. Alright. Ready.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm just warning you.
You need a timer?
I wouldn't go for the A+ debate. Our rating of this debate, at least our content. Oh my gosh.
I would always go for A+.
Yes.
If I were you.
Okay. Let's see how to explain this. Does anybody have a timer? Okay. So 5 minutes.
I don't know if
7.
7.
Seriously?
7.
5. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, time answers. Okay. We strongly affirm today's resolution that the Federal Reserve should immediately raise interest rates. Our criterion for this debate is net benefits, and we define the Federal Reserve as the central banking system of the USA. And the interest rate, we define the interest rate risen, like we define the amount as 0.25%. So our first contention is that currently with the low interest rates, the feds have been encouraging people to borrow more money, as low interest rates make it more easier and more feasible to borrowers to borrow money. However, although right now it's working, we are slowly creating this artificial bubble that encourages people to borrow more and more money, and soon these people will eventually not be able to repay it, and this could lead to a bubble that could burst, such as the 2008 recession. Now, we all know the 2008 recession. However, the reason what happened in the 2008 recession is similar to what is happening now. There were very low interest rates. People were borrowing a lot of money, and when it came, and at the end of it, and after a while, people just couldn't repay the banks, and the banks went into debt, and the feds had to bail them out. The feds went into debt, and we had this whole never-ending cycle. And as a result, this led to companies being hurt dramatically, and as a result, according to the LA Times, 8.7 million people lost their jobs. And when people lose their jobs, this is bad because this can lead to things such as people having their homes foreclosed, such as the 1 million people who did as a result of the 2008 recession. Also, when people lose their jobs, their basic necessities aren't that accessible anymore. For example, food, education, water, all these things that seem like a standard for us is not accessible to people who lost their jobs. And families are affected, and families can't support themselves anymore. And it's a really bad situation, what happened then, and it's also what could happen now. So, currently, according to the Bloomberg, losses of the huge corporations, as they repeat, was caused by large money being loaned that could never be paid back. So currently today, our interest rates are at an extremely low rate, almost close to zero, and we have been, and people are borrowing money, and this is yet the problem is, also, however, the feds have been leaking information that they are going to raise interest rates soon, and as a result, investors have been more wary and more vigilant with their money, which has been actually causing the stock markets to go up and down. However, however, although this might seem bad, the thing is that the interest rates have to go up. The borrowing and spending that is happening now is something that cannot be maintained over the course of the next couple months, and which is why it's time for the feds just to remove that band-aid immediately. They have to do it, and it should be done now, because we cannot continue this artificial borrowing and spending of money, and soon it's just not going to be able to work. The system was working now, however, it will not be able to work in the current future. And for all these reasons, I strongly affirm today's resolution that the Federal Reserve should immediately raise interest rates.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good. I'm trying to track like 3 or 4 contents.
Okay.
Dude, okay, I got my screen replaced on my phone and it still doesn't look that good, but that's pretty
Temper glass.
What?
Temper glass.
Okay, so I got that first and the guy really screwed it up and it was like the shittiest thing ever. For like a month. And it was horrible. Okay. Time starts now. My name is Tessa Muller and I am the first negation speaker for today's topic that the U.S. Federal Reserve should immediately raise interest rates. First, I'd like to talk about people struggling below the poverty line. There are many, many, many people below the poverty line right now, as it is. Yet somehow, okay, let me start over. There are many, many people already under the poverty line, and raising interest rates would send them even lower down their downward spiral. Poverty line. This is basically to be defined. Number of people struggling under financial insolvency. The rates of such: 13.5 of people aged 18 to 64 live below the poverty line, and as of 2014, 46.7 million people live on or below the poverty line. These rates have stayed steady. However, raising interest rates will cause many problems, two of which sending people who are on the poverty line way below the poverty line and messing up things with foreign and foreign affairs. If we drastically increase the interest rates, we are showing our weakness to other countries with which we might trade.
So, in your first contention, you mentioned how raising the interest rate would some people below the poverty line. Could you explain how that works?
Okay, totally. The people who will be affected most by these increased interest rates, the money that's being sent out of their pockets into the U.S. Federal Reserve's metaphorical pockets, will be the people who are, the ones who lose the money that they need the most. It's the people that don't have the money. Even with a non-flat tax, like a percentage interest rate, people who are way high up on the spectrum of money making will have effect. There will be effects on them, but the main effects will be pressured upon those who are living below or on the poverty line. And even if you could suggest that this tax this increased insurance tax would help those people in the long run, if there's another financial crisis, if other countries want to invest, if so on and so forth. If we increase the tax, they will be sent further into financial insolvency. It's not an if, it's not a maybe, it's not a perhaps, it's a will. And the foreign affairs aspect of increasing this interest rate. If we fall into, or are viewed to be falling into financial insolvency, other countries with whom we often trade, or with whom we are planning to trade, will realize that is a warning sign that we are not doing well as a nation, and they will not want to trade with us because that would be a major money sucker out of their GDP. So we have to keep our public image up, and because we are not in a direct issue with the finances of this nation, it's a bad idea to act as though we are. Even if it's supposed to be saving money, it's a bad decision. And if we I can't even read your hand.
Sorry.
It's okay. If other countries want to invest in us, but they see we're not doing well, they might not want to trade with us, and they would say this is a bad country, it's doing poorly. That's why it's taking so much money from the hands of its, the pockets of its citizens, because they're careening towards financial insolvency and they want the money. This is not fully true, and creating a negative public image.
So regarding the contention you're going over right now, so are you saying that the $18 trillion we currently owe to other countries who decided to help us out when we were losing money and who had faith in the American economy, are you saying that shows that other countries don't want to invest in America and will not be willing to if our economy fails? Or?
I'm saying there's a possibility that if we we tarnish our public image. I mean, maybe not all of the countries that invested in us during our 2008 financial crisis will react so drastically, but there's a good chance that our appearance is a large part of our success as a nation. And we don't want to ruin our opportunities because because interest rates are higher. Even if we're not losing more money, even if we're not in a financial crisis. If people think we are, or if nations think we are, they're not going to want to invest. So yeah, that basically, okay. So they basically said that, there's like 4,000 things. She's my best friend, we're best friends. Okay. Dang. So the feds are encouraging people to borrow. This is simply not a great plan. It's a very if, hopefully, what if, maybe, perhaps, and it won't work. In the long run, it won't work. Yeah. It just won't work. Goodbye. I'm sorry. Oh my god. I was thinking how hungry I am.
I think I probably should have been speaker.
Do you need a ride to the toilet? Okay.
Can I use that time?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you. Did I even set the timer?
Yeah. It's like 41 seconds left.
Okay.
This is like really close to that.
Wait.
So you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So I have 7?
She has 7.
Okay, cool. Is this on you?
5, 7.
No, it just didn't run out of time for us.
Wait,
Oh,
can I
no,
have
no.
the timing?
No, we're not out of time.
Can you tell me the time? Sorry, can you tell me
7,
how?
7, 7, 7, 5, 5.
Okay, I really better like write this down somewhere.
Everything else.
No, only the last 2 are 5. All constructive speeches are 7. So can I, like in the
Brief time.
order? No,
Oh.
so like in the order of the flow, if they like addressed our first point last, should I address that point first to like get
Just say which order you're
straight
going.
line?
I'll
So
have
you
time
can say
right
like
now.
I'll go over our case first and then neg case and then just put everything in that order, or you
Okay.
can go in the same order as the last.
So if I'm going over neg case first, should I go over their points in the order they?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay, thank you. So as a brief off-time roadmap, I will be going over the negation team's points, and then I will be going over our case. So time starts now. So the first point of the negation team was that because people are below the poverty line, the raising of interest rates would only make people fall even further behind the poverty line. However, this is not true because raising interest rates will only prevent people who are many times below the poverty line who would be willing to get loans from the bank in order to make purchases such as a house or a car. It would only prevent them from borrowing too much money in which they would not be able to repay. This was how the 2008 recession came to be, as people were borrowing and borrowing and borrowing more money, and they could not repay it. Also, raising interest rates would only be raised by 0.25%, according to CNN. This is not an extreme amount of inflation. This is not a big difference. And people who have already made loans and are paying them off will have had more time to pay off their debt. So raising the interest rates at 2.5% will not be that large of an impact upon their loans. Also, their second point was that other countries will not be willing to trade with the U.S. However, this has been proven incorrect in the past by, again, the 2008 recession, in which many other countries were willing to bail us out of our large amount of debt, and they were still willing to trade with us, as the United States is the largest economy in the world. And so, even if, which we will not by raising interest tax, but even if the economy were to somehow collapse in some way, countries have proven that they will still always trade with the United States. Also on this point, the raising of interest rates will not cause harm on the United States economy because it will only be preventing people from taking out out loans which they are not economically stable enough to support. Their third point was that raising interest. Yeah, but this is your third.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Their rebuttal to our contention was that raising interest rates won't work. So they did not explain at all how this would work. So I will explain how it will not work. So because by raising interest rates, people will be less likely to borrow large sums of money which they cannot repay. So when people do take out large sums of money which they can't repay, the bank is forced to get their money somehow, either by usually by taking the loans that they gave them to purchase. So say someone went to purchase a house and they needed a loan from the bank to do so, and they weren't able to repay that interest rate, so then the bank would be forced to foreclose the home. Now, if people are taking out many loans which they can't repay because the interest rates are low and they feel this is a great time to do so and they take too many loans, then people will have their houses foreclosed and then but there's too many people who don't have enough money to buy those houses, which would make the bank go into bankruptcy, which means the Federal Reserve would have to bail them out, and then no one's there to bail the Federal Reserve out, and this just leads to a cycle that goes on because of these loans that people are simply not able to repay. So this situation is extremely similar to the 2008 recession, in which this bubble was essentially popped as when the stock market collapsed, 8.7 million jobs were lost according to Los Angeles Times. So they are then so the people whose jobs have been lost are not able to provide for their families, then they will have to go on welfare. And when 8.7 million people lose their jobs all at once and all have to go on welfare, this puts an enormous strain upon our government. So with the lowering of interest, with the low interest rates, the government is essentially encouraging people to borrow money and spend it, creating a bubble, much like what happened in the 2008 recession. And the United States is still recovering from that said recession, and will not be able to withstand another. If this same thing were to happen again, there's no saying whether the United States would ever be able to recover, since it has been almost 8 years since the last large recession, and the United States is still not fully recovered. Okay. So as the second speaker of the affirmative team, I strongly affirm today's resolution that the Federal Reserve should immediately raise interest rates. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I can get read.
Meilinda, actually.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm so bad. I could never be a president.
So you could have just considered
So
space.
wait, do you want to
Yeah.
To add the debate. No, sorry about that. Okay. So I have 7 minutes, right? Okay. So as a brief off-time roadmap, I'm going to be going over the opponent's case and refutations to our case, then going back to strengthen the negation science time starts now. So they refuted that when we mentioned they refuted our refutation. They refuted. Okay, I'm confused around my own notes. So they said how that the change is not going to be that high. It's only going to be 0.25%, and it's not going to be a big difference. But to those people below the poverty line, and who are not like in the middle class or high class, they're not going to have a lot of money. So then because they don't have that much money, any change in that interest rate is going to impact them more than it will impact, like maybe the middle class and the high class. So yes, it is right. It's not going to impact the high class or the middle class that much, but it will impact the people under the poverty line or in the poverty line for sure, because any money to them is valuable, and they need that to support themselves. So the higher interest rate, no matter how small they say it is a big difference to those in and under the poverty line. So that's also somewhat related to when we refuted how it's not going to their plan's not going to work with the raising of the interest rate. They said it will work because the people will not take any high loans, but they're not really thinking about the people in the under the poverty line, because the people under the poverty line, they probably should know themselves that they cannot take like these giant amounts of money, like they can't just waste it and stuff. They're probably only going to borrow just for their necessities, like a small shelter, enough to support them somewhat, clothes, food, those basic necessities. And so, as I said before, it's that increase in the interest rate is going to impact them, because any money to them is valuable, and it's that their point actually about the jobs being lost and how not about the jobs being lost. The point about how the interest rate increase is actually going to help. It's so the point is that it's going to actually have a negative impact, because then the people who so they said that there's that 1864 in age below the poverty line is 13.5%. 13.5%?
Yeah.
13.5% people 18 to 64 below the poverty line. And so approximately, according to the survey for 2014, there's 46.7 million below or in poverty. So that 46.7 million approximately below or in poverty, they're going to be impacted, because any money, as I said earlier, is going to be beneficial to them. It can make a difference. Like maybe a few dollars could be able to give them food to support themselves for a few days, or water, clothes, or help them pay off like a bit of shelter, for a small shelter, or somewhere to keep them supported, protected. So any money is going to help them. So if they lose any more, then that's going to be quite detrimental, because then the people can't support themselves, which can lead to the family, like they not able to support themselves. So like the children and the family, they won't have the chance to make their life better and get out of poverty, because they don't have that money to be able to go to school and stuff. So they don't have the education. They can't really make their lives much better if they don't have the money, which by interest rate could be decreased even more. So when they said about our second contention about how that other countries will still want to trade with the U.S. because the U.S. is a large economy that the other countries want to trade. Yes, that is true. The U.S. has a large economy, but if they see like they need to take, because the U.S. needs to take money from their citizens even more, it sort of shows a bit that is the U.S. economy going down, is something they might start thinking at, because why would they need to take even more money from the people? It sort of shows that maybe they're not doing as well, and is something that would cause the other countries to start slowly backing out and becoming more wary about their investments, so they might not really invest as highly as they did, so they might limit how much they're investing, which is going to impact the economy quite a bit. And yeah, so now I'm going to go over our side's case, the negation side's case again. So as I said before, the people in and under the poverty line, they're the ones who will be impacted the most. And since this debate is about the criterion is net benefit, so as I said before, people under the poverty line, they're to be impacted a lot. That's not a very good benefit to them because there's a lot of people in poverty. 46.7 million, yes, maybe that's not a lot compared to the entire population, but it's still a good portion. So that good portion, they're already struggling to support themselves. They probably are already having trouble trying to make their lives better, like because as I said before, the children maybe they're not able to go to school, so later in the future they can't really do much about jobs, and they might not really be able to make lives even better, which is not good. And so it's going to be quite detrimental to them, and it's going to be, it's not a very good thing for those people in poverty to spiral even more into poverty, and they're not going to be, yes, maybe there will be those few people who decide they're going to try to spend as much so they can live like a comfortable life, even though they're in the poverty line, but there are probably those people, there should be a good amount of people in the poverty line because they've lived in that poverty for a long time, that they know they can't be wasteful with that money, and they will be careful with their loans. And so about the foreign affairs, the increase of interest rates, as I said before, it may show that the government needs to take more money from the people, which is showing maybe the government is not doing as well, the economy is not doing as well, which may cause the other countries to think that they're not doing very well. So I strongly negate today's resolution that the U.S. the Federal Reserve should immediately raise interest rates.
Hi y'all. Imagine you are struggling under the poverty line in a house of shambles, and suddenly on the radio, some rich guy in Washington, D.C. says he's going to raise the nationwide insurance rate. That would be a major problem for you and your family and your lifestyle, because you're the ones who will be affected the most. The underprivileged, impoverished citizens of this nation will be affected the most by this increase in insurance rates, or in interest rates. Doubling in the foreign affairs side of this, trade will decrease potentially, likely, if this system is put into place. But most importantly, our citizens will be affected if we put this law, whatever you want to call it, this act, into effect. Imagine, simply, what would it feel like to know that because some government officials wanted to raise the rates so that the government in this nation wouldn't fall, maybe, possibly, probably, perhaps, into a deeper recession in the upcoming years, you are struggling even more. For the 21.2 children who are struggling under the poverty line, children under 18, for the 18 to 64 aged people struggling under the poverty line, a huge percentage of them, 13.5%. Imagine that you're one of them, and that this was seriously going to affect your lifestyle. Not because we're in the middle of a recession, but because another one might happen. And that's why we are arguing that this property tax, or what they're arguing, that this interest tax should be enacted. It's not worth it to so many people. Because even though, on the whole, not a huge portion of the population is affected, the people that are affected are affected. Just because you're not affected, because you're a large part of the population, doesn't mean the part of that population that's smaller isn't going to be affected. It could be like 0.5% of the population who are going to be affected by this, and that 0.5 would be seriously affected. And it's not just 0.5, it's so many people in this nation who will be very much affected if this system is put into place. If it is enacted, it will hurt our citizens. It's plain and simple, it will hurt our citizens, and that should come before anything and everything else, other than mass genocides in other nations. It's very important that we look out for each other. And this interest tax that might help some in the long run is seriously harming others in the short term, right now. The second we put this into place, immediately, not if, not maybe, not then, perhaps, will hurt these people. It will hurt them, and that's not okay. Because of this, this act should not be enacted in the U.S. country grounded in liberty, freedom, and hopefully monetary benefits. Because effort is not everything, and the government keeps changing its laws. So for these people, I strongly negate today's topic that the interest rates in this nation should be raised. Thank you.
I am ready. Okay. Yeah, can I have a timer, please? Okay, so as a brief off-cam roadmap, I'll be going over the negation team's case first, and going over the key voter issues on the affirmative case. So time starts now. The negation team's first contention was that we are hurting people below the poverty line and around that line by raising the interest rates. And they argued that what they were trying to say is that, people who are below the poverty line will be careful with this money, and we shouldn't be raising interest rates. So, if people below the poverty line are going to be careful with this money and know how much they can borrow, then this won't affect them, because the people who can't borrow will simply not borrow, and it's just not going to affect them. And they argue how people, by increasing rates, are going to hurt them more than the people who currently are loaning money. However, when people borrow money, they're in a contract. Keyword, contract. They agree to lend a certain amount of percentage and pay over this money over a certain amount of time for a certain amount of percentage. So by raising the rates, we believe that this new rate is going to apply to all the upcoming loans and the upcoming people who are borrowing, not the people who are currently borrowing money from the feds. So their argument just simply does not apply. And they said, so going back to their point, how people in the poverty line will be careful with their money. So yeah, if they're careful with their money, then they would have borrowed money and they would be still paying it off. And this raising the interest rates would not affect them in the way that a negation team was trying to say. And they also said how this is, even though interest rates would be affecting the middle class, and even if they were to ignore a point of the poverty line, I simply said how we must focus on the 41.5 million people around the poverty line, because it might not seem that important to us as we are the middle class. However, if we were to go into, if we were not to increase the rates, we could possibly go into a recession, and this would end up hurting more people than the people who are currently in the poverty line. We could be causing more people to fall into the poverty line, but simply we just must go back to the point that there are contracts, and therefore their whole argument just does not stand. Going briefly over their point over the countries not having faith in America when they see the feds are taking more money from their people. The reason countries will in fact would probably be grateful that the feds are doing this, because we are actually stabilizing our economy by increasing the rates. And when we stabilize our economy, we are making it so that investors from other countries will want to come in more. They'll be more happy and they'll be more secure when they come in spending their money, knowing that the feds raise the rates so that people would not be borrowing money from the banks and won't be able to pay it off. There is not, and also we must look at so they say if they suspect something, countries will not be likely to spend money. But look at the 2008 recession. Our economy, the whole world could see that our economy was definitely in bad shape. There was no suspicion, it just was. Yet the people still chose to bail us out. They still chose to invest. They still had faith in the American economy and business. And we are slowly improving. And even though the effects can be still seen today, we are making progress. So I'd like to argue that their reputation just simply does not hold, because at a time when our economy was definitely in bad shape, the country still came and helped us. So now going back to our point on the 2008 recession will occur. It's not a matter if or when. And they basically dropped our point. They didn't really refute our point directly. So I'd like to go over our main contention, which is the fact is what we're seeing now is a repeat of 2008. Low federal interest rates encourage people to borrow more money and spend it in places such as the stock market, bonds, etc. But the problem is people are encouraged by the low federal interest rates to borrow more and more money. And it comes to the fact where people can't pay back their money and banks run out of money and the feds are forced to bail them out. And this is not just something that if happened, it's already happened in 2008, and this is something that will happen if the Feds don't burst this bubble that is starting to form with the low interest rates. And by raising these interest rates, we are going to be preventing another recession. And in the end, it's really going to help us because we are going to be saving jobs that could have been lost, such as in the 2008 recession, we lost over 8.7 million jobs, and all the effects, such as families being harmed, that they can't afford their education, they can't afford basic necessities such as food. That could happen if another recession were to happen, but by raising the interest rates, the Feds are actually trying to help the economy and help citizens to not be able to not suffer this again. And so just briefly going back, is that taking more money, the Fed's interest raising rates is just actually stabilizing our economy. Our economy still has not fully recovered from 2008, and if we were to go into another recession, we might even hurt our economy more to a point where we cannot help it again. So for all these reasons, I strongly affirm today's resolution that the USFG should privatize. The Federal Reserve should raise interest rates. It was so good. To raise interest rates immediately. Yeah.
We can go way over time.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
Just saying.
How much time was that?
Negative 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Negative 50 years. No.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you guys think that works?
I love that
I agree
ending.
with all her points, to be honest.
Yeah, no, seriously, she
It
was
was
great.
hard. I'm just like, why was
And that wasn't even a one-sided topic, so like now I feel bad. Cause it's not like it was like everyone should die, like affirmative or negative. Like that was super like.
Alright.
You
What
guys
did you
won
guys
big
think
time.
of the debate?
I think they won.
I don't know.
I think I was finally like organized in my way of asking
I don't know. It's like once they brought up their contentions, the debate just got a whole lot more interesting. Just so many things. Like I could see.
I think we
two
should.
sides?
I know. Like in the beginning when you assigned us the topic, I was a bit reluctant. I
I
didn't
didn't know what it
noticed
meant.
a bit. It was probably not stressing the point, but like once they brought up their point, I don't know. I just felt like, oh, I got this. I know what to do.
Do you need the points?
Yeah.
It would have been helpful for us to have more
Let's
than
not
just
talk
one
about that
motion.
today.
Hello.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Do not
I
say
obviously I
anything.
was
not
just
good.
I might
saying what I
actually-
had said a million times, but I had no other like points.
No, but their points were good enough to like.
Wait, did you have this resolution?
No.
Bottom line.
We had the federal.
It's
Reserve.
okay.
I wanted to talk about China.
I'm really Chinese.
I wanted to talk about
okay.
China. Yeah, I have a whole thing. That's so
I'm I
China.
look at the board to finish my speech, and I look at the board and say, oh, for all these reasons, I affirm that the USFG should privatize social
And then just
security.
like, oh wait.
Oh
We
wait, no,
also
that's
got-
not right.
Property tax.
You said insurance, federal insurance.
This is a good look for you.
One of their speeches.
Alright. Meilinda, Tessa, how do you guys think that
I feel
went?
like
I think they
contradicting
won.
myself somewhere.
I think they won.
Alright, moving beyond that.
Oh, okay. I have a question. When interest rates are raised, does that affect rates? Like, does that affect people who are already in like had a loan?
Yeah, I brought up the contrast point. Is that how it works? Because I just thought that.
It would
Oh yeah, I know.
I think it would affect them.
So like,
Because raising interest rates
so like,
would just mean it would probably depend on the terms.
I mean,
How they
like
got the
I was
loans.
talking about like the loans that are currently, it would say the same because they're in a contract, right? Right? No?
Same. So I feel like it would follow the interest rate.
No, but
Really?
people sign to like.
Yeah, I thought people signed and like saying, okay, I will be, like, I don't know, it's like, I know.
Because that's the reason why I didn't bring up that point earlier. I thought of it, but I was not sure at all, so I didn't want to say it.
I was ready to go the whole emotional thing, like, my dad.
You should have gone with the emotional Emotional is how you win against parent.
I should have done that because my dad lost his job during the 2008 recession, so I should have gone.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, my dad had to change law firms. And he just became a partner and he lost like several thousand
Should I
dollars.
actually do that?
And he was so pissed, and oh my god, I didn't know what was going on, so I was making fun about it. I was like
My dad
Like,
went on
lost
sabbatical.
7 or
Thank you.
something, and I was making
We
fun
were
of
out
him
of
for
time.
it.
I didn't like someone borrows. That's really cute.
I know. That's why I showed you. Yeah.
Like say someone borrows like $1,000, for example. Like and say the interest rate, they'll have to pay back how much?
Currently, the interest rate is actually 0.1 something.
So what?
We couldn't get an exact number.
So what would it approximately be?
Like this
You have to pay back.
1,000 more.
Like 1,000 something.
No, 1,000 like
Wait, no, I got that.
2 or something because like 10% would be 1,100, and we're going like 0 point something. So we're going to go at 0.20. Yeah, 0.20 ish.
Right. It says they signed the contract saying, oh yeah, they're gonna pay that much, but then the interest rate goes up and then they have to pay more, shouldn't it?
Because then they're like, wait,
I
shouldn't
think
buy
that is how it happens.
That's weird.
I'm really unhappy
The
with
government right now.
Government.
everything. Just
No, it's like them needing the money. So they're willing to go for it.
Yeah, I
How
don't
does
know.
he know my number?
Oh my god, the whole stabilizing the economy.
Who's calling
Saving everyone.
It will be applied to existing balances.
Oh,
Wow.
there just goes my point.
Oh, so I was.
Because if it didn't, I could have mentioned like it's not gonna make much of a difference.
But I feel bad because I really felt like, oh, it's a contract. They would keep it. You know what I'm saying?
They were probably not.
I know.
But due to the fact that we didn't know that either and didn't refute that, like the judge could be like, oh, that girl doesn't know what she's talking about, even though we know you do.
It's like, if it was a parent judge who knows how it works, they'd be like, oh, that girl is completely wrong.
I think if it was like the
If it was a or whatever that.
They would vote for me because you guys would say anything.
but I think like if say like the
Never let the judge do the work for you. So if you don't bring it up, the judge is gonna do it for
The
you.
judge ain't gonna blow.
say the
See, I just play on my phone.
Say like
Right, Lily?
Say the debt rate change. Right? So like just pay like 1,001.
Hey, this is Serena.
No matter. You raise it, you lower it, it doesn't matter.
People who have low
Lights.
So like in the end,
Oh yeah, it's alone. It's alone.
it's like
Yeah,
But
me
then
too.
again, if you raise it to
I think the rule might really
yeah,
That's different.
1,500 is a lot different from 1,000.
You know what?
Your
Usually the
parents
tickets
care.
included in the bill.
No, my parents don't care.
Yeah,
So I'm
no, I love that because
Um,
it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the rules are.
Well,
I'm gonna ask if I need to what we're doing, so I'll let you know.
Oh, it definitely